Nobody claps for silent work. Nobody films the 5 a.m. mirror. Nobody records the missed calls, the empty group chats, the birthday you skipped because you were somewhere else, building something they can't see yet. That's the deal. That's always been the deal. You don't get an audience for the invisible hours. You get silence. You get people assuming you gave up. You get your name slowly fading out of conversations you used to dominate. And that's exactly how you know it's working. Because right now, somewhere, in some group chat you're not in anymore, they're talking about you in past tense. Remember when he used to? Whatever happened to her? I heard they just kind of stopped. Let them think that. Let them build the story where you're the cautionary tale, the one who talked big and vanished, the one who peaked in a moment nobody bothered to record. Because while they're writing your obituary in casual conversation, you're rewriting the entire script in a room they'll never be invited into. This is where it starts. Not with an announcement, not with a speech, with a decision nobody witnesses, made at 4:47 in the morning, in a room with the lights off, when your body is begging you to stay under the blanket, and your mind is the only thing standing between you and another wasted year. You get up anyway. Nobody claps. There's no crowd. There's no music swelling in the background like the movies promised you. There's just you, and the cold floor, and the silence that's about to become your only witness for the next several hundred days. This is the part they never show you. The part before the transformation. The part that looks like nothing, feels like nothing, sounds like nothing. But something is happening. Every rep you do in that empty room is a vote for a version of you that doesn't exist yet. Every page you read while everyone else is scrolling is a deposit into an account they can't see the balance of. Every no you say to the noise is a yes to the ghost you're becoming. And make no mistake, that's what you are right now, a ghost. You move through your old life like a memory. People wave, you nod, you're polite, but you're not really there anymore. Part of you already left. Part of you is already living in the future you're building in secret, and the present just hasn't caught up yet. That gap between who you were and who you're becoming, that's the most dangerous place a person can exist. Because in that gap, you have nothing left to prove to anyone who's watching. Since nobody's watching, you have nothing to perform, no image to maintain, no crowd to please. You are, for the first time in your life, completely unsupervised. And unsupervised people do terrifying things. They train when no one's checking. They study when no one's grading. They build when no one's funding. They keep every promise they made to themselves in the dark. And that's the part that should scare everyone who ever doubted you. Because a person who keeps promises with no witnesses is a person who can't be stopped by an audience either. Let's talk about what happens to the ones who don't disappear. The ones who stayed loud, who kept announcing, who kept explaining the plan before they'd built anything real. Watch them. They're still explaining, still about to start, still one conversation away from getting serious. Every few months, a new declaration, a new Monday, a new version 1.0 that never becomes version 2.0, because the applause after the announcement felt so much like the applause after the achievement that the brain got confused and stopped chasing the real thing. That's the trap. That's the mechanism. Every single time you tell someone your plan and they say, "Wow, that's amazing," a part of your brain checks the box. Goal acknowledged. Dopamine released. Motivation spent. On a sentence instead of an action. So you stopped talking. You started disappearing instead. And disappearing is not the same as giving up. Disappearing is a decision. A calculated, cold, deliberate withdrawal from an audience that was never going to help you anyway. Think about the last time someone's opinion of your dream actually changed the outcome. It didn't. Their doubt didn't stop your body from getting stronger. Their laughter didn't stop the numbers from moving. Their silence when you needed encouragement didn't stop the sun from rising the next day, giving you another shot. So why did you keep handing them a vote? Not anymore. Now the only room that matters is the one they're not in. There's a specific kind of pain that comes from being underestimated by people who used to know you. It's colder than a stranger's doubt. It cuts deeper because it comes wrapped in familiarity. The friend who says, "Are you sure?" with a little too much concern in their voice. The family member who brings up your past failures like they're doing you a favor. The old version of you, whispering through everyone else's mouths, trying to drag you back to a place that was comfortable because it was familiar, not because it was good. That pain. You don't run from it anymore. You use it. You let it sit in your chest like fuel in a tank nobody knew was there. Every time someone underestimates you, you don't argue. You don't defend. You don't explain. You just remember. You file it away in a part of your mind reserved for exactly one purpose. Proof. Not proof for them. Proof for the version of you that's going to need it later. On the day the training gets harder, the results get slower, the motivation runs completely dry, and all that's left is memory. That's the day their doubt becomes useful. That's the day you reach into that file and pull out every dismissive comment, every raised eyebrow, every "good luck with that," said in a tone that meant the opposite, and you burn it as fuel. Let's go deeper, because this isn't really about them. It never was. The real enemy was never the people who doubted you. The real enemy is the version of you that agrees with them. The quiet voice at 6 a.m. that says, "Just 5 more minutes." The voice at the gym that says, "You've done enough today." The voice staring at the blank page that says, "You're not ready to start this yet." That voice is the only opponent that's ever actually beaten you. Every single time you lost, you didn't lose to a competitor. You lost to that voice. And then you blamed the competitor because it hurt less than admitting the truth. So here's the truth, cold and direct. Discipline isn't about motivation. Motivation is a mood. Moods change with the weather, with sleep, with a bad conversation, with a rejection email. If you're waiting to feel like doing the work, you'll be waiting for the rest of your life while everyone who didn't wait walks straight past you. Discipline is what happens after motivation leaves the room. It's the system you built so that the version of you with zero motivation still shows up, still does the work, still keeps the promise. That's the real transformation. Not becoming someone who feels unstoppable, becoming someone who moves whether they feel unstoppable or not. And here's where it gets dangerous for everyone who counted you out. Because a person who acts independent of how they feel is a person who can't be manipulated by circumstance. Bad news doesn't stop them. A slow week doesn't stop them. A public failure doesn't stop them, because their engine was never running on approval in the first place. You become unpredictable, uncontrollable, the kind of person systems aren't built for, because most systems, most relationships, most environments are designed around people who need validation to keep going. Take the validation away, and they stall out. You don't stall out anymore. You run on something else now. Something colder, something that doesn't need to be fed by anyone's applause. Let's talk about the moment everything shifts. It's not dramatic. It doesn't look like the movies. There's no lightning strike, no single life-changing sentence from a mentor, no perfectly timed epiphany. It's smaller than that, and stranger. It's the day you realize you didn't check your phone after finishing something hard. You didn't think about posting it. You didn't think about who would be proud. You just finished and moved to the next thing, because the work itself had become the reward. That's the moment the addiction to approval finally breaks. And once it breaks, you're free in a way most people never get to experience. Free from needing the room to clap. Free from needing the group chat to notice. Free from needing your parents, your ex, your old classmates, your old self, to understand what you're doing before you're allowed to keep doing it. You just keep going. Quietly, relentlessly, like something that isn't asking permission anymore. Now, let's address the ones who are going to try to pull you back. They will. Because your growth is a mirror, and most people don't want to look into a mirror that shows them everything they haven't done. Your silence, your discipline, your slow and steady disappearance from the noise. It makes them uncomfortable. Not because they hate you, because you remind them of a decision they haven't made yet. So they'll poke at it. You've changed. You used to be fun. Why are you being so serious about this? They'll frame your growth as a personality flaw, because it's easier than framing their stagnation as a choice. Don't take the bait. You don't owe anyone an explanation for choosing a life you'll actually respect in 10 years over a life that keeps them comfortable for the next 10 minutes. Let them talk. Let them speculate. Let them build entire theories about what happened to you, using nothing but secondhand rumors and half-finished conversations. Because the day you show up different, all of it becomes irrelevant in a single second. That's the part they're not ready for. Because when the silent work finally becomes visible, and it always does eventually on a long enough timeline, there's no debate left to have. Results don't argue, results don't need defending. Results just exist, undeniable, standing in the room like evidence that can't be cross-examined. That's the day the room goes quiet. Not because they're impressed, though they will be, but because they suddenly understand they spent months, maybe years, underestimating something that was building this entire time, right under their nose, and they missed every single warning sign because they were too busy waiting for you to fail. You didn't fail. You just didn't perform your progress for people who were never going to invest in it anyway. Now think about the discipline it actually took to get here. Not the highlight reel, the actual mechanics of it. The days you didn't want to. The days your body was tired and your mind was foggy, and there was a version of the day available to you that required nothing. And you chose the harder one anyway, for no reason except that you'd decided, somewhere back at the beginning, that you were no longer a person who breaks promises to himself. That decision is the entire foundation. Everything else is just repetition of that one choice, over and over, thousands of times, until it stops being a choice and starts being who you are. That's when people start calling you disciplined, like it's a personality trait you were born with. They don't see the 200 mornings where discipline was a fight you barely won. They just see the 201st morning, where it finally looks effortless. And they call it talent, because talent is easier to accept than the truth, that you simply refused to stop. Long after refusing to stop stopped feeling good. Let's go further. Let's talk about what's actually being built during all this silence. It's not just a body, not just a bank account, not just a skill. It's a nervous system that no longer panics under pressure, because you voluntarily put yourself under pressure, alone, with no one watching, for months. It's a mind that doesn't flinch at difficulty, because difficulty has been your training partner the entire time, not your enemy. It's a version of you that has already survived the worst thing anyone could say about you, because you said it to yourself first, in the mirror, at your lowest point, and kept moving anyway. Nothing anyone throws at you now lands the way it used to. Criticism bounces off a person who's already been brutally honest with themselves. Doubt doesn't stick to someone who's already doubted himself harder than any outsider ever could, and moved forward regardless. You built armor nobody saw you forge, and that's exactly why it works. Because armor built in public gets tested by an audience before it's finished. Armor built in silence gets tested by nothing, except the only opponent that ever mattered. So here's the part where I tell you what's coming. The day is closer than you think. The day where all of this, the silence, the empty room, the missed events, the misunderstood absence, collapses into a single moment that makes every bit of it worth it. It won't be loud. It rarely is. It'll be a conversation where someone who doubted you goes quiet mid-sentence. It'll be a number on a screen that used to feel impossible. It'll be a mirror that shows you someone you don't recognize. Not because you look different, but because you finally feel like the person you always suspected you could become, if you just stopped quitting on yourself every single time it got hard. And when that day comes, you're not going to explain yourself. You're not going to give a speech about the journey. You're not going to post the highlight reel with a caption about hard work and patience, tagging everyone who doubted you like some kind of victory lap. You're just going to keep going. Because that's the final secret nobody tells you about this path. The version of you that finally arrives doesn't stop. There's no finish line at the end of discipline. There's just a new, higher floor. And the same silent, relentless work, starting all over again, at a level nobody else is even ready to compete at. That's what you're building right now, in this exact moment, whether anyone claps for it or not. Nobody claps for silent work. But silent work is the only kind that's ever actually changed a life. So get up tomorrow before the sun does. Do the thing nobody's watching you do. Keep the promise nobody else knows you made. And let the silence do what it's always done for the ones who refuse to quit in the dark. Let it turn you into someone they never saw coming.